we're going to go with the November features first and then the January features next. But for anybody who is joining who might be a longtime customer of Volt, who has not seen anything related to V3. V3 is our coach platform, our new system that we launched earlier in 2022. The old system is still up. We haven't retired it yet, but we do have plans to retire it this year. So hopefully this is a helpful kind of introduction into V3 if you haven't seen it before. So this is what V3 looks like now. If you haven't seen it before, we're going to go through all the different pages here and you'll get a chance to see everything if you haven't seen V3. This is our coaches interface. And of course, athletes engage with Volt through a mobile app, which we will also demo a little bit here as well. All right. So first, let's go through some of these features from the end of last year. First one being custom metrics in V3. So when you're in V3, you can go to your analytics tab here, and there are several different sub tabs within analytics. Engagement is actually going to be one of those two that we released in November. So we might as well knock that one out first, since that's where we land. When you go to the analytics, you land in the engagement tab, and you're seeing engagement data, which includes total workouts, completed in the last however many days you filter this view by, right? Total workouts, percent that have accessed the app, 100, how many workouts have been completed versus prescribed or out of the ones that have been prescribed, and then an average duration. Right now, when we land here, we see this data for our entire organization. So if this was the Volt demo school, if this was the Volt demo organization or facility, this is looking at all users within this Volt demo organization. Now I can also use this filter to filter down by different groups. So these are groups or teams that we've created in this demo account. There might be a football team, there might be a weightlifting class, and we can just sort that data if we want to. And again, we can change the time frame for that as well. If we scroll down, we see the members that belong to this group, or the users, I should say. And then down below, we see the data for each individual user as well. And then Christy, if you wanted to, you can, I think I saw you raise your hand, you can jump on in.
Just a quick clarifying point, and I realize this is a great product improvement for us in the future. The tile that says 100% completed workouts, that is looking at out of the users in this population, how many of those users completed at least one workout in the time period. So it's not looking at number of workouts in each program, like actual versus completed. It's looking at number of users who are active, essentially.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I must have misspoke. Thank you for catching that. See, you're already making sure.
Am I adding value?
Yes, absolutely. Perfect. Okay.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Bo, just looking at this is a demo org. So that tile that's reading right now, 0% access the app. Is that just because we have been, as coaches, completing workouts for these athletes, and because they are not real athletes?
It's actually just because they're not real. So okay. I think when we built in the data, this was just something that we didn't, I don't know, enter data in.
Perfect. Yeah. So you coaches will see a percentage there. It would be very strange to see 100% completed workouts and 0% access the app.
Right. And actually, that's a good point too to point out here. The difference between this tile that says access the app and then the percent that have completed a workout, right? Because as we go forward, we are building in more and more ways for users to engage with the app outside of just completing workouts. So, there's a Volt chat function, which we'll talk about a little bit. So somebody could essentially get a chat message from their coach, open the Volt app to answer that chat or view that chat. That would count as accessing the app without having actually completed a workout. So just a little bit, another layer of visibility into what we term as engagement with the app. And then just a reminder, you can also filter this by different program if you wanted to, right? So we can filter this data for groups and for programs. Moving on to this other section of analytics, we have E1RMs. And actually, we made some additional improvements to this in January, so I'm just going to knock those out while we're here as well, too. But basically, what's really cool is that as athletes complete training in Volt, the training that coaches are building for them, they go through their app, they mark things as completed, they have weights prescribed, and they rate how difficult each exercise is, each set is of each exercise. We are capturing all that data automatically. And whenever we feel it's appropriate to update on the back end a user's estimated 1 rep max in a particular movement, we're going to do that automatically. So here, when we go to E1RMs, again, we are looking at the entire Volt demo organization, fictional organization. And the movement that we're looking at is barbell back squat. So this is showing us across the entire organization what the estimated 1 rep max is for all users here in this organization that have completed a barbell back squat at some point in the past. Right now, we're at a current average of 209 pounds, right? But you can imagine you might want to expand this view across a longer amount of time, or maybe condense it, whatever it might be. But essentially, any movement that any athlete or user in your organization ever does in Volt, any loaded movement that they ever do, we're going to have an estimated 1 rep max in the back end tracked for that athlete, and we'll be able to track it and chart it over time, as long as athletes are using the app and giving their feedback. Now, we can also filter this by a particular group or by a particular program or for an individual user. So let me see who's at the top here. Robin Schultz. Let's filter that just for Robin Schultz. And we'll be able to see her history, her training history over time for this particular exercise, along with how often the E1RM has been updated, what weight or load was used during that set at which we, quote unquote, recalibrated or updated her data, how many reps she performed, what she rated as her rating of perceived exertion, and when that data was updated. So you have all of this history if you need to look at an athlete's performance here in a particular exercise. If you're on this webinar and you've never seen what the athlete interface looks like in the app, some of this might not click right away, but I think once we get into the actual training session of the Volt app, some things will the dots will kind of connect here. Okay, last section here in analytics is metrics tab. And this actually, sorry, before I move on, one more thing here with E1RMs. You can see that we have the option of adding data, right? So I mentioned all of this stuff gets automatically tracked, but if you wanted to manually, as a coach, manually enter data, strength data, you can hit add data, choose a movement, choose a user, make sure you set the right date, choose the units that you might be using. Let's just say 145 pounds or 55 pounds. Let's say she did it for 2 reps. And let's say that that was a 9 out of 10 effort. We can enter that in, add data, and that will update it for that particular user, right? So then it takes you to Alicia, who we just updated her numbers for. And now you have a manual entry here in that source column. Okay, metrics in analytics. This is, if you're familiar with our old system, what we would term custom metrics in the past. This is now just called metrics. And this is where you can create a metric like a 40-yard dash, and you can, again, filter by group or program or user. And then you can see, for particular athletes, or you could check these particular athletes and add data manually for the 40-yard dash. If you wanted to create a different metric, right now we just have 40 and vertical jump. If you wanted to hit create metric here, you could create something, like a shuttle run, or even if it's something maybe not a standard test that you like to do. Maybe it's like Bo's crazy end of semester test or whatever. Like maybe it's an obstacle course that you're timing. Just to kind of give a little bit of an outrageous scenario, you can name it. You can select the units that you're using. So for this, it would just be time. And then the units would be minutes and seconds would be the format. You could see something like maybe you wanted to do something like a movement screen. Maybe you have a movement screen that you do with athletes or clients. And in that case, maybe your metric would just be, count. And the units that you use is maybe like a points system. Right. That's probably, or just something generic like units. Right. So you can see how you can just create your own metric here if you want to. And now it's important to point out that we've created that new movement screen metric, and that is shared across the entire organization. So let's say you're in a big organization and you've got movement screen and some other coach user goes to create movement screen again. We would let them know that it already exists, and they would be prompted to use this movement screen metric. Let's see here. We talked about custom metrics. We talked about analytics. Next, let's talk about streamlined workout printouts. So this is just a different type of visual in reformatting, and I'll show you how we access printouts. So you could go to any program that you have. So right now I'm logged in as Laura Mayer, and my program here that I have access to is rugby program. So I would go to that program view. I'd say, okay, I want to print day 1 of this program. And then I want to print it out for these particular people, or I want to print it out for all users on this program. If I do that, I hit print. That's going to send an email to my inbox where I can download those PDFs or that single PDF, depending on how many I'm trying to print out. What that printout looks like is a streamlined view. So this is different than if you're coming from V2, this is different because now we've expanded our programming parameters to be able to fit more exercises and everything in. So we need to fit potentially more exercises and more sets and more information on the same amount of real estate. So you can see here, you've got your exercises on the left, the loading, the number of reps, and then the rest time and the check boxes on the right-hand side. And as well as like estimated duration here at the top, timestamp, etc. Okay, let's see. Shared edit access. Okay, so this is actually, this is kind of going to be 2 new features in one for a lot of our users. So if you go to create a program, there are 2 different program types. There's a group program, and you would choose group for program for any program that you intend to have multiple users training on, right? So if you're on if you have a rugby team, you're most likely going to have group programs. There's no real reason to have an individual program here unless, maybe it's one of your assistant coaches who just wants their own program. But let's say you're in maybe a different setting where you're at a facility and you have clients that you're working with, and you're not intending for anybody to share programs. In that circumstance, you would likely go with an individual program. So if you go with individual program here, you select that, you choose the individual that this is going to be assigned to. It kind of default names it. You could change that if you want to. And a setting here is shared edit access. So if you leave this on, it will allow the user to edit, update, and restart this program if they want to. So you can imagine a scenario where as a coach, you want to have full control over this program for this individual. You don't want them to mess with any of the dates or anything like that. You would turn that off if you don't want them to be able to edit it. So that's why there's a shared edit access. So if you want them to be able to make those changes, you leave the shared edit access on. And then quickly, this is going to be the same for group programs. When you go to create a program, choose a program goal, right? So let's just choose sport performance. Let's say that this person is getting ready for golf season. As soon as the snow thaws and they open up the courses again, you choose these inputs, set a training start date, and you can indicate if you're training for a season if you want to, and that would open up some additional fields for season start, season end. But as soon as you do that, you've created an entire year of training. So I know the purpose of this session, this webinar is not to show like all of the features of Volt, but since we're looking at that program flow, I thought it'd be worth showing off. Okay. Let me see if we have anything else here on the agenda for the November bulk delete users. I mean, that's pretty intuitive. I don't think we really need to show that off. Okay. Good for the November release, feature releases. Let's get to January. Really excited about this one. This log workouts for athletes feature is something that we've wanted to do at Volt for a really long time, and really optimize for that setting where you might be a trainer working with an individual client, and you don't need that individual client to bring their phone in to do their Volt workout with you. You can just have a tablet and basically check things off and take that individual through the workout on your own device as a coach. So here's how that would work. Again, we go to our programs tab. We choose the program that we're going to be working within, and then we hit this View As button. So now I can see all of the individuals that are currently assigned to this program. Again, if it were a personal trainer scenario, you would probably just have an individual program, but same type of scenario here. Choose that person you're going to view this workout as, and all of a sudden some things change on your page. You can see that since you're viewing this as Alicia, day 1 has already been completed. So now we just have day 2 and day 3. We can see the movements here that are being prescribed. If we wanted to, we can replace these just like the individual can replace them on their own as well, right? And when we're ready, we can hit Start Workout. So let me see. Looks like some of these workouts, these demo workouts, are just missing some data. So just bear with me as we go through this. What you would expect to see is in this view, this list view, you can imagine again how this would feel on a tablet or even on your own phone as a coach. If you're going through this and doing the work, taking somebody through a workout, you've got the movement here. You can tap on it to see a movement demo. You've got coaching cues and instructions here if you need them for reference. If this user has completed hang high pulls in the past, they would have loading prescribed. In this circumstance, it looks like Alicia has not done this movement before. So then as the coach or as the trainer, you would instruct her on where to start. So let's say you just start out with 95 pounds. Enter in, she does it for 4 reps. Maybe she does it for 5. You change that there, and then you mark that set as completed. Rest 2 minutes before you go on to your next set. You could also, let's say, this is actually a pretty practical example. Let's say you try this movement with Alicia, and it was okay. Like there's no danger, inherent danger in her doing this exercise, but you decide in real time while you're working with her that you're going to have her do an alternative movement instead, right? We're just going to say, okay, well, maybe we're not going to do the hang high pull. We're going to hit replace movement in real time, and maybe we'll just do a dumbbell hang high pull instead. We can replace it for that workout, and now we just progress. And if she had done dumbbell hang high pulls, that loading would update to give her the loading for that specific exercise. You still get the coaching notes, you still got the instructions, and now we mark that as done and we move on. Right. Going through here, you can see how this looks. I'm wondering, so in this example where we have band pull apart, we're just going to prescribe a band because, that's going to be inconsistent in terms of the color of the band. The color and the thickness doesn't always correspond exactly depending on the manufacturer. So it's going to go with something a little bit more generic there. For body weight movements, we just have BW, and you can always change the amount of weight, the amount of reps that the individual was able to complete. You can pause and close, or you can finish the workout. So let's go ahead and check some of these off. And then let me see if there was anything else in this little button here. All right. I guess that's kind of nice if you're in a gym where some of the plates are pounds, some of them are kilos, you could change that to metric if you need to. All right, let's go to the bottom here and mark this as finished. All right, now it's time-stamped and we're good to go. So that'll make a big difference in those personal training scenarios. now you can guide them through on your own. You saw, actually, when I was demonstrating that feature, you kind of saw how I could do a program edit just for that person. So let me just provide a little bit more clarification here. When I'm logged in as a coach user and I'm looking at, rugby program here, this program is attached to all of these different athlete users, right? So all of these users are getting access to rugby program. Now, if I go here and I change barbell reverse lunge to barbell split squat, that's going to change that exercise for everybody that is assigned to this program. That might be your intention if you're working with a team. But let's go ahead and close this out or get rid of that movement replacement. Let's say, again, I have a specific athlete who maybe not a major injury, but like maybe they had a light ankle sprain or something like that. It's not going to require extensive rehab, but for the next couple of weeks, we might want to kind of pull back. We might not want them to do something like a barbell reverse lunge. If I want to make a change just for a single athlete, again, I go view as, I say, all right, Evangeline. It looks like she already did that workout. Okay, let's use this one, barbell split squat. We're viewing as Angeline, and then we're going to just replace this for Angeline. So maybe we just go with a body weight alternative instead. Now that change is made for Angeline, but then if I stop viewing as her, you can see this is what's being programmed for the whole program, for everybody on that program except for her. Okay. So now you can make those individual movement replacements without affecting the entire group. If you did have somebody who had an extensive rehab protocol and you were getting your athletic trainer involved, that might be a scenario where you just create a whole separate program and manage it for a couple months. And then at some point when they're able to return back to the group protocol, you put them back on the rugby program with everybody else. That's an example of something that our strength coach consultants usually advise for our coaches when they have that sort of question when they're getting started with their training. Okay, compliance mode in V3. So compliance mode is a feature that we had in V2. And in compliance mode, we basically build this out for anybody who has certain restrictions to access for information access from their athletes, specifically thinking about NCAA coaches, where at certain points in the year, they don't want to be able to see if their team is participating or not. Let's say Laura is a D3 rugby coach, and she can just go here to her individual settings here, go edit my info, and she can enable compliance mode. And what that does, if we save that, nice indicator here, this will just persist for as long as you're in compliance mode. Every time you log in, you've got this bar here letting you know and reminding you. And you can now see that analytics is hidden while in compliance mode. Okay. And then if we go to our group dashboard, remember before you could see like the little, the accountability information and the readiness data at the top. Now that we're in compliance mode, all of that is hidden from me as a coach, right? So if I go and I turn compliance mode off, and I go to that group dashboard, now I can see what participation looks like this week, what my athlete readiness scores look like this week, and who's completing workouts. Here's another one we're really excited about. The ability to log workouts or activities or sessions that aren't actually programmed within Volt. So this is actually where I'm going to show the coach side first, and then I'm going to jump into the app and show the app interface. So here, if we go to, if we're here and we're looking at any of our athletes, let's say we go to Theodore, click on Theodore, and now we're looking at his user details. Down below, we can see all of his Volt workout sessions that he's completed, right? I don't actually know if I have an example here for this one. It'd be interesting if I did. Okay, so if somebody does a non-Volt workout, let's say Alicia goes for a run and she wants to log that, or over the weekend, she goes for a 6-mile hike and she wants to log that in Volt. That might be interesting to you, especially if you're a strength coach and she went on a 6-mile hike or a 10-mile hike on Sunday and you were planning on having her squat heavy on Monday. That might kind of cause you to make a different decision with their programming. So from an athlete's perspective, what they can do is, let me make this, I wonder if I can expand this. Okay, so this is what it would look like in the app, and they would open up their side menu as an athlete, and then they could go to activity log right here in the side menu. This shows them all of their activities, and they can select add, specify the activity. So let's say I went snowboarding over the weekend. It's seasonal. Let's say that I was snowboarding for 4 hours and this many minutes. Okay, done. I'm going to log that as something that I did yesterday or maybe Sunday. And let's just say I started that, I was late to get up to the mountain. Let's just say I started at like 11:30-ish. All right. And then I can give this a session RPE. I'm just going to say that it was an 8 out of 10. Notes, legs were burning, and cramped a little bit. I'm just thinking of my last snowboarding experience, around 4 hours of snowboarding, right? Something like that. And save activity, and all of that would be viewable for the coach in that user details tab. So now we can have a more accurate record of what each individual person is doing in their training over time. Adding users via CSV. This is, if you have a big roster that you want to add a bunch of people in all at once, you can add them via CSV. I think up to 200 users is our current limit, where you can upload them at a time and get them in the system. Okay, those are all of the new features of note. Let's see here. Any chat messages that stuck out to you that we want to address?
So Misty is asking if there is a way to delete a user's individual program. And the answer is no, there is not a way to delete that program. And the reason is because under the hood, inside the data, that individual program is really closely linked with the user's account. Bo is nodding his head like yes. And this is a new feature actually to allow the coach in the coach platform to create and edit that program for an individual athlete. But since it's so closely linked to their data, once it is created, it can only be edited and it cannot be deleted. So you may find yourself wanting to put the user on a group program, and the user can be on as many group programs as we want. I believe there's no limit on that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bo or Chloe.
The user can be on as many programs as groups that they belong to, right? So if you are on a rugby group or a rugby team, you can have access to one program through that team. If you're on rugby and volleyball and basketball, you can have up to 3 programs that you have access to in addition to your individual program. Let's see, I'm just going through some of the other chat stuff here. Is there anything standing out to you, Chloe or Christy?
Yeah, Kevin asked a good question to clarify how the views and analytics work. And I mentioned this in the chat, but it might be worth saying to everyone. Basically, when you're in the analytics tab and you're viewing data, particularly in the engagement section that Bo showed. Oh yeah, thank you, Bo. Mm-hmm. So Bo's going to go to analytics and he's going to pull up engagement. Kevin was essentially asking like how the data is displayed and how the filters work. And essentially you can think about the filters as filtering down the population of users whose data is displayed in that graph. So if you're looking at a group, we filtered down to engagement by the members of the softball group. The total workouts here represent workouts completed by any user who is on the softball group, regardless of program. So if a user is on more than one program and they complete more than one workout in a week, all of those workouts will count in this view. And then the same thing actually goes for program. When we filter down by program, we're looking at again, the pool of users who are assigned to that program. So this is advanced weightlifting, this program, 4 total users are assigned to this program, and it's looking at workouts completed by these users. So hopefully that makes sense. And then yep, cool, got the thumbs up.
Aaron had a question. How does a logged workout non-Volt affect the Volt program or AI? At this point, there's no automation built in for a non-Volt workout to affect any of your programming moving forward. We figured that as a starting point, we want to be less opinionated on what actions are required after a workout is completed. So for example, if we use the example that I gave before, that I went snowboarding on Sunday or Monday and we were supposed to squat the next day. As a coach, if that was my athlete, I may still have them squat the same, or I might pull back. It's better to have at this point, our stance is that it's better to have the professional be able to make the decision versus us making the decision for them. So I think down the road, we can build in more logic and flagging systems down the road. But for now, that non-Volt workout activities will not affect any of your programming going forward. That wraps up all of our chat. That wraps up the new features. Christy, do you want to talk a little bit about what we have coming down the line?
Yes, part of what we'd like to do in our office hours is kind of tease new features that we are currently working on. Two that are in the upcoming cycle of features are features that I think are going to be really impactful to coaches and provide a lot of value, but I'd love to hear from any of the participants on this call. One of those features is the ability to create a blank program. Currently, the only way to really program in Volt is to generate a program based off of a base program, a Volt seed program. And what we've heard from coaches is that works really well for most coaches, but there are instances where coaches would like to start from scratch and completely create their own program. And so that's one of the features that is currently being built this cycle. You will be able to click Create Program, select an option to start with a blank template, select the number of weeks, say 8 weeks, select when you'd like the program to start, and it will generate 8 blank weeks for you to populate with your own training. So I'm personally super excited about this feature. Coaches have been asking for it for a while. In addition to the blank program feature, we're also building in some note features, which I'm also very excited about. One of these types of notes will be on the workout itself. So you'll be able to navigate to a program and leave a note on a workout day, which will be seen by anybody assigned to the program. You will also be able to, in the new view as mode, when you are viewing a group program through the lens of an individual athlete, you'll also be able to leave a note on the workout just for that athlete. So in my group program of Bo, Christy, and Chloe, I can view Chloe's version of that program and leave her a note that only will be seen by her. So that's, if you're familiar with our older legacy technology, this is similar to how the coach, the team note and the athlete note worked. So we're building that feature into V3. There's also another note-taking feature, which we're really excited about, and that's the ability to add a note to a movement on a workout. It's specifically a set level note. So the way, and this is, we're still kind of working out some of the details here. The cycle is scheduled to be released in the middle of March. To answer Laura's question about that. So there's still a lot of kind of functionality details to be worked out, but the way that we're planning it at this point is as you are editing your program, and you can edit the sets and reps of an individual movement. Let's say I've prescribed back squat, barbell back squat. I can go to edit the sets of that movement. And then for each set, maybe just the first set or all sets of that movement, I can add a note that will be seen inside the workout by the athlete. What that looks like is still kind of a work in progress, but we're really excited to allow that functionality because I think it's going to make the program features a lot more powerful now for coaches. You'll be able to create your own programs from scratch. You'll be able to annotate the workouts and provide exactly the instructions you would like, in addition to Volt Chat, which allows you to communicate kind of in real time with your athletes. And you'll be able to give set specific instructions. So I know that a lot of strength coaches I speak with are really excited about being able to instruct their athletes to give 100% on the final set of a movement, or to do as many reps as possible. And that kind of specific set, specific movement, specific instruction will be available shortly.
All right, we're at the end of our time. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. If you have more questions for us, just email us at support@voltathletics.com. If you do have any other questions, just reach out to us. Thanks, Christy and Chloe, for helping me out. And I hope you guys all enjoyed this, got some value out of it. And we look forward to talking to you all soon.